Well, hello everyone. This is Ann Williams. You're in the Twitter breakout room. Thank you all for joining us. Please introduce yourself in the breakout chat for all the participants who have joined us. We are very pleased to have with us um, Bonnie Zink, who gave a presentation just a little bit earlier today, so welcome, Bonnie. Also joining us today are Carol Ann Murphy from the Kessler Foundation and Marissa DeMaya from the Southwest ADA Center. Unfortunately, Salima LaForce hasn't been able to join us, but if she joins in a little bit, we'll be sure to include her in our conversation. So thank you all for being here. Like I mentioned in the orientation to the breakout room, we asked for a lot of recommendations on which Snyder grantees had innovative and active social media pages, and these organizations were identified as stellar at using their Twitter effectively. Our goal for the breakout room is to hear how these organizations have developed their Twitter feed and how they've maintained its consequence to their followers. We would love to hear from all of you that can hear us through your speakers to get in touch with us and share your questions, thoughts, and any sort of curiosities you have for our panel members. We were monitoring the Twitter feed today, so if you'd like to post your questions there using the hashtag KTmedia, you're able to do that. You can also chat in your questions or email us, and please put Twitter in the subject line so Tracy can route the email to us to the right person. You can also call in at 1-800-266-1832, and Tracy will take your question and bring it over to this room. And again, please indicate that you're in the Twitter breakout room. Something new that we're doing during this session is that we'll be able to enable your microphone. So if you have a microphone and you'd like to verbally ask your question to the panel, please raise your hand and I'll enable your mic when it's your turn. And then you have to go to the phone icon on the top left-hand side of the screen. Click the second option that says Using Microphone, and then select Join. So without further ado, let's get started by hearing a little bit more about how all of our panelists use Twitter. Let's see, Carol Ann, would you like to start us off? Could you briefly describe your Twitter feed and what its goals were whenever you developed it?
We have a single Twitter feed for Kessler Foundation. We use it to expand and maintain our professional connections, our partners, like other model systems, our collaborators, government agencies, journals, reporters, conference organizers. We disseminate our grant-funded advances. We publicize our outreach activities of our researchers and fellows. We also use it to recruit research volunteers, to publicize our events, lectures, and consumer conferences, and to solicit donations.
Wow, so you're doing a lot with your Twitter feed.
Yes, we're a little bit different type of organization in that we do receive, a lot of funding for our research and training, but we also have a grant funding arm where we give grants for innovative employment initiatives for people with disabilities. So we have a lot of facets to our organization. And one of the challenges we had when setting up the feed is because we have so many different audiences,
Yes.
Did we need multiple Twitter feeds? Would it overwhelm some segments if we only had one? But we decided to go with a single Twitter feed, and I think it's worked out well.
Wow, so your diverse Twitter feed reflects your diverse organization.
Yes, and that's part of what we want to get across in terms of our brand awareness because we're such a diverse organization, it can be a little bit difficult for people to get a handle on what we do, but by putting out pretty much, news items on everything that we do, it gives people a better sense of, that's what goes on. Kessler Foundation.
Wonderful. Marissa, would you like to describe a little bit more about the Southwest ADA Center's Twitter feed?
Sure. Um, we do a lot of similar things that she described, but one of our main goals when we started out with Twitter is we wanted to reach out, at a regional level because we cover 5 states and we're one of 10 centers. We were trying to reach out and connect with other organizations, our affiliates, but also we wanted to post information that was not only maybe nationally important, but also more at a regional level for the states that we cover. So we set out with that goal, and we were trying to, when we initially started this, really, we had kind of mixed emotions about it, obviously, but we were also trying to find a new way of sharing information among our, constituents, consumers, anybody really who was willing to listen or who was interested. With regards to news about the ADA or things that we were promoting, events that we were taking part in, certainly any kind of training or presentations that we were doing where the public was invited, things like that. So we kind of started this, as an alternative to, say, maybe a newsletter or something that we send out to our email listservs, because we're constantly, everyone's, email is so constantly in everybody's face that we were saying, well, let's give them a choice and see what they're tuning into.
So have you limited your newsletters because of your active Twitter feed, or are you doing both still? Or
Well, yeah, we actually don't at this time. We actually aren't doing a newsletter. One of our, our other projects at ILRU does a newsletter, and I believe that comes out about either semi-monthly or twice a month anyway. But we were trying to look for a way, to post information in a timely way. Because of some of the constraints of our website, we're a little bit more strict in terms of having to have certain information up by a certain deadline so that it goes live on our website. And we were initially trying to find like a bit of an alternative so that we could post that information faster, get it in the hands of consumers, businesses, organizations that were interested. And it really has helped to boost that. In terms of just about anything we wanted to get out there. It's gotten up rather quickly, a little bit more quicker, dare I say, than if we had to wait to put it at 4 p.m. a certain day to get it up the next day on our website.
Definitely, it is like a very quick medium.
Absolutely.
Bonnie, you're on the line as well, so thank you for your presentation and your participation throughout the day of the conference, but would you like to describe a little bit about how you use Twitter?
I first joined Twitter in 2008, and I spent a few years kind of watching and just gauging the community, seeing what's happened, and it quickly grew into one of the most effective communication tools of the digital age. My Twitter feed is comprised of, I actually have several Twitter feeds, so I have split things out. I manage Twitter for some clients, so I've got some of theirs in there. I manage Twitter for various groups that I belong to. So my Twitter feed is very diverse. I have people in the literacy world. I have people in the knowledge mobilization, KT world. I have a lot of health people in my feed, a lot of news media, and that could be, some from the major networks, others from not so major dailies and whatnot. I use my Twitter feed to connect and engage with people that bring value to me.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm also a freelance writer, so as a writer, I often need, I need a quote from an expert. So I'll source my Twitter feed for that. Within, 15 minutes, I will have hundreds of responses from experts in various fields. When I'm looking for a piece of research to inform something that I'm working on, I will source my Twitter feed because I know, just in the way that I've built my network, I know there's experts in my network like David Phipps, like Bruce, like, various other people working in health and knowledge mobilization, they've already sourced that. They've already vetted that information. So I trust that they're sending me information of value, which really saves me a lot of time. I also talk a lot about knitting and cleaning products on my Bonnie Zink Twitter feed.
Mm-hmm.
Every Wednesday I send out cleaning tips, and professional and personal connections in my Twitter feed value that, and if I miss a Wednesday, my network tells me about that. I talk a lot about knitting because knitting is a lifestyle choice. It infuses everything we do as knitters. It's everywhere. So you know what? Actually, I've got knitting sitting beside me right now, and it's always there. So I talk about it a lot and about how it, connects to me personally, but also professionally. And speaking of that, I also have a knitting-focused Twitter feed, and that's STOON Stitcher on Twitter, and that's where I talk a lot about my work because I'm also a pattern developer and designer, and I publish a lot in the knitting world. So it made sense to split that off. And I know you mentioned earlier, Carol-Ann, about that whole tension between do you have more than one, do you have one? And it didn't make sense for you, and I think you made the right choice. In my case, because, one handle talks about this and one handle talks about that, and I've got clients and groups and various other things happening, I did split my personality out. So your challenge, everybody in the chat room, find all of me on Twitter. That's your challenge. There's a lot. I challenge you to do that. But I do
Go ahead, Carol-Ann.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that, we have another split here at Kessler Foundation. When we set up our Facebook channels, which we did before our Twitter, I have separate pages there for, like, say, spinal cord injury research, traumatic brain injury research. We have a main page. We have stroke research, neuroscience research, because the researchers who were really actually behind the move into social media in terms of, research recruitment and tracking participants felt that they needed those separate channels to communicate with their audiences. And I think that on Facebook it works for us because I don't know what your opinion is, but it seems to me that Facebook is more of a consumer or individual community, and my Twitter feed tends to be more organizations and agencies and, more of a professional nature.
Yeah, and that makes sense, Carol-Ann. It really does, because Twitter is fast, it's quick, it's easy. We access it when we have time and when we want to. We tend to spend a little more time thinking through our discussions on Facebook and use it more for lengthier discussions. And the other player in the room now is Google+. So
Right.
We can give our thoughts in a more I guess, reflective, thoughtful manner in longer form on those social networks where everybody, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do, you're limited to 140 characters on Twitter, and that's it. And that itself can be a challenge.
And Marissa, do you see the same trend where organizations are mostly linked to or follow your Twitter feed, but on your Facebook? Or do you guys have a Facebook page? That's what I should ask first.
Yeah, we actually do. Exactly. She pretty much, hit the nail on the head there. We do see a lot more organization activity on our Twitter page. It is definitely an easier vehicle for us to connect with our affiliates in other states, but also it's been phenomenal for us connecting with other organizations. There are consumers certainly that follow us, but and a lot of professionals too, and back and forth. We do have a Facebook page, and the one of the great things about our Twitter feed is that it's linked to our Facebook page, and it's also linked to our LinkedIn page in the manner which what we post first on Twitter will appear in our Facebook automatically. It provided a very easy transition for us to be able to do that, I guess what you would say interface. And for that, it's been very easy for us too, when we're trying to get a message out about something, whether it's a new publication or a webinar that's coming up or something like that. Any announcements, whether we're here or we're off-site maybe at the office, or we're doing a training and maybe we're live tweeting, it'll pop up not only in our Twitter feed, but it'll automatically go to our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page and so forth. So it's really provided a very easy mechanism for us to get info up in a very quick matter of time. And you can do it remotely, through a mobile device if you're not at your computer.
Can I just say one thing about linking your social accounts? It's very important that as your networks grow, that you don't link your social accounts, because each social platform has its own conventions, right? So LinkedIn doesn't use hashtags, but if you're posting your tweets to LinkedIn that are using hashtags, it makes it kind of look like, it makes it a little more unprofessional than professional. Facebook does use hashtags now, but your Facebook audience will tend to be a lot different than your Twitter audience. So start thinking about these different networks as entities to themselves, and take the time to post messages in the appropriate language and use the conventions of that network, and then you won't run the danger of, it kind of reflects negatively in some ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's been my experience.
Yeah. Bonnie, we were advised, we had been linking, and we were advised by, we have an outside PR firm we work with, and they advised us not to link. So even though it's more work, I think you're right. You're really communicating with different audiences. Facebook does give you, say, a more extended conversation, number one, and that, the ability to post multiple photos, and different types of, images and video that you can't do on Twitter or can't do as easily. So
now there are tools like Hootsuite that do allow you to post to everything with sort of one click, and you can massage your messages quite easily, and it makes the process a little more efficient. But just be careful about linking your accounts, and be aware that things are different on each network.
Definitely. Alan has a question, and Jess has responded, but I was wondering if any of you have any thoughts. Alan's question is, he's about to start his Twitter feed for his organization, and when you're just starting out on Twitter and don't have any followers yet, what are some strategies for gaining followers? And Jess said to follow leaders in your field, and people who follow them will then start to follow you. And it helps to be interesting, which they are. But do any of you have any tips for Alan?
Yeah, Alan, you know what? Start joining conversations. So really listen to the conversations that are out there. Start following some of the hashtags that mean something to you. You can also join tweet chats. Tweet chats are an amazing hour of your time where you gather around a hashtag. Sometimes it's a facilitated conversation, but most of the time it's a free-flowing conversation. For knowledge mobilization, we do hold a monthly tweet chat every fourth Thursday of the month, and the hashtag is the number or pound sign KMB CHAT, so KMB chat. And what happens is we get knowledge mobilizers and KT professionals and other people working in this industry join that chat each month. And connections, you always make a new connection. You'll always find a new conversation. And so by being attentive to that and engaged in your network, it's going to organically grow. I'd like to follow that up by saying, please do not buy followers or take shortcuts to doing this, because it really isn't helpful. Always be aware of who's in your network and work to encourage other people to join your network. Put your Twitter handle in your email signature, advertise it on your website, and if you have any publications like posters or research reports or anything like that, publish your Twitter handle in there, and you'd be amazed at how many people start following you.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. So we came up with a list of guiding questions, but again, I'd like to encourage all the participants to raise their hands or chat or tweet their questions. Um, the Something else we thought would be helpful in this discussion is identifying any roadblocks that you had when either developing your Twitter feed or maintaining it to make it um, remain interesting to the followers, any sort of roadblocks that you might have had in solutions to these roadblocks that you could share with the participants online. Uh, Marissa, would you like to talk about this, or do you have anything to
Sure,
share?
I do, sure. Actually, when we started doing this, we did hit a couple of roadblocks, with regards to accessibility. And we know everyone, a lot of people now are using, they're accessing these mediums through mobile devices, tablets, PCs, what have you. So we did run into some issues with, in terms of accessibility. And, probably maybe the same way that a screen reader person using a PC with a screen reader might access it differently, or there may be some lack of access depending on the mediums. We ran into that a lot with, say, Facebook. We ran into it some with Twitter, where some of our users were saying, we're not doing that. So that was part of the idea behind us, sometimes if we repeat the message across our different mediums. But in terms of accessibility, what we did was we were basically trying to offer as an alternative that, whatever we're posting on the feed, we're also duplicating on our website in a given place. So they can contact us at any time, but they can also see it on our website, what we're posting basically in the links in a very basic manner. It's not, there's really no simple solution to that, other than trying to offer the information in a variety of ways. I hope that makes sense. And again, go ahead.
Oh, it does. Could you share the link that you're referring to that's on your webpage in a second?
I can. Yeah, let me type it in there in just a second. I've got so many windows open, I apologize. I'll put that in there in just a second.
Oh, yeah,
But
take your time.
That's one of the things that we do offer, and certainly if someone contacts us and says they're not able to access something that we're posting, we've got a lot of hands on deck that respond to those types of messages, and we can send them the information in a different format if they need it.
That's a really good idea. Carol Ann, how do you take into account accessibility on your Twitter feed?
Well, that's a good question. Really haven't had any issues regarding that, but similar to Marissa, we do post, our postings go up on our website, with the appropriate links, and pretty much everything that goes up on Twitter goes up on Facebook too. So people do have, there are several channels that can be accessed.
That's right. So making various forms of information, or your information available in various forms.
It does raise an interesting issue, though. I mean, we need to be sensitive to that.
It does. I'm curious about the ADA Center's link, and maybe that would be something that we can emulate in the future.
Look at that. Well, I have a roadblock list, and I'm just curious if other people have had this issue, but I think the major roadblock that we had in terms of social media, implementing social media in general, was resistance from our IT department. I hope I'm not offending any IT people online, but they had tremendous concerns about network security and a lot of issues like that, and we still have social media access privileges are only available to 2 persons per department or lab. They're not wide open. And the problem that presents for me is that, I have these channels going, and, I'd love to have certainly all of our staff involved. But people feel like, well, if it's important enough for me, for us to engage in the foundation channels, we should have access at work.
Oh, so
I don't have the, the staff and employee buy-in that I feel I really should have. Now, it's not that people can't access these channels. We all know this. Everybody's got a smartphone or a tablet these days.
right.
But there's this feeling that, well, if you feel it's that important, I should have access at work.
Definitely.
So I'm still dealing with that. So it's still a work in progress in terms of getting those channels open, and it's one of my goals to eventually, have all of our employees have access to our social media channels.
I agree. I think social media can be a really big resource for people to either connect with colleagues or to get information about staying up to date about what other NIDR grantees are doing. And
Right.
social media is the way I can kind of stay up to date. And so I can see that being a reason for it being open to all the employees. So that is a serious roadblock, but even with that roadblock, it seems like the Kessler Foundation has a very active social media presence. So
Yes, because I feel it's important. Nobody told me to do this. I feel it's important. It's, there's resistance to new things, as we all know. I mean, I'm an old-timer. I came from the typewriter age. When computers came in, everybody said, oh, we don't want to deal with that. And, it's going to be something additional, extra, we have to deal with and learn. And then, of course, now everybody has adopted computers. Email, what do we need that for? Something else to do, I'm going to have to spend X hours a day on that. And now they find out that it supplants all these other traditional tasks that we needed to do. So I do think that there will be a tipping point at which, the organization will realize that this isn't something added on. These are tools that will save time and eliminate the need for more time-consuming traditional tools. I'm just, not quite to that tipping point yet, but I just haven't let that attitude hold us back.
this way. That's
Carolyn, I'd love to have a talk with you later after the conference.
I would love to talk to you, Bonnie, also.
Great
I would
idea
love to have a chat with you.
about overcoming your resistance from your IT department is not uncommon. It's actually a very common complaint in most organizations. It's the IT guys and the lawyers who will, rain down upon you and say, no, you can't do that. I think for the most part, employers are realizing very slowly the value in empowering their employees to be a part of social media, because here's the thing, here's your argument for your higher up. All of those employees are already on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Some way, shape, or form, they're out there. If they're on Facebook and they actually say, I'm an employee of X organization, they automatically become an ambassador for that organization. Now, if they don't have any guidelines to follow, they're just following their own initiatives and promote, just going along on their own. But wouldn't it be better for your organization to actually empower them, provide them with the training to do it well, and act on behalf of the greater organization? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Because and if you look online, look up Zappos, the shoe company.
Oh, yeah, I'm a shoe person. I know about Zappos.
They have probably the most stellar example of empowering employees on social. They use it to have conversations. They use it to inform their product line. They use it to deal with customer service issues. And so, all of us can do this, just like they do it. But there's a right way and a wrong way, and there's certain things you should and shouldn't say, and I think a lot of people online here today work in industries that have, privacy concerns and whatnot, but all all of that work has already been done, and you can implement policies within your organization that really don't limit the people you work with. It actually empowers them. And, social isn't just about putting out your message. It's about, getting access to the great professional development opportunities. I would love to know how many people participating in this conference heard about it in a social channel as opposed to another channel. I think that would be very telling.
That is, but I think we have that question in our registration form, so I'll check it out tonight and I can share it with you guys.
But Carolyn, please do contact me afterwards. I would just love to have a greater conversation with you.
All right, and then I have another topic that I'd like to address with you too. So we will meet offline.
Oh, fantastic.
Or offline, online.
I think Matthew and Jess have both said that social media policy is a great way to start getting your IT department and your organization as a whole to support the social media efforts, and it sounds like you guys have a lot more to add to that. Laura asks, do you have examples from healthcare institutions that you can provide for us to take to our communications departments? So,
can she explain that a little further?
In terms of...
Are you talking about policies or?
Implementation, dissemination.
Oh, policies that we were discussing.
Oh, okay. That's a good question.
Yeah, let me just say, Laura, when dealing with policy, it's a really good idea for a policy to be guiding and not restricting or telling people what to do, right? So there's a balance there. And there are some good examples out there. And if you Google social media policy database, you'll come across a database of not just in healthcare, but of other organizations, social media policies, and the ones that are done really well and some that aren't done well. Sometimes you can learn more from the ones that aren't done well.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'll be on the lookout for the social media policy. I know that we have one, and Laura, I'll be happy to share that for you. We're not a healthcare organization, obviously, but perhaps it'll help set the guiding policies.
This is Marissa. Our parent our organization is actually a healthcare. It's a hospital. So I can do a little bit of research. We've got some things. I'm not sure how much I would recommend them, but I think I can at least share some of that with you, either via email if you like, or you can send me an email and I'll share it with you if you're interested.
That sounds great. She says she is interested, so maybe we can collect all of these, and with the during Mark Hardis's and Michael Johnny's presentation today, we were talking about making a group of the conference attendees, and maybe that would be a place where we can collect different social media policies so we can collect them and share them as needed. Again, I'd like to point out that we can take in questions in our chat box like everyone's been doing, and also using the KT Media hashtag and Twitter if anyone's interested.
I'd like to roadblock to the list, Anne, if I could.
Oh, please, yes.
In the beginning, and when your list is easy to manage in the beginning, your Twitter network and whatnot. As your network grows, it becomes a lot more difficult to manage, who those people are, where they come from. Twitter has a fantastic tool called Twitter Lists, and I encourage all of you to use Twitter Lists. You can have as many lists as you want and add as many people as you want. They used to be limited, but Twitter has recently opened that up. So you can make lists for your colleagues. Say, Carol Ann, if you do know of any of your colleagues in your organization that are on Twitter, you can add them to that list. I have lists, similar to that. I have a list of government organizations like the Weather Network and whatnot here in Canada that just push out information, and I'll check that every now and again. I have lists for the media. I have lists for my knitting connections. I have lists for absolutely everything, and most of my lists are open. I do have private lists as well that contain clients, and that's how I keep track of how they're doing and whether they maybe need a little hand-holding as they're working through the Twitter process. So I keep those lists private, but pretty much everything else is opened up. And you can have a list for absolutely anything you want, and every time someone follows me, I automatically add them to a list.
And how does that help you manage
How does
your
that
list?
help me? Well,
I don't have any experience with it.
That's no problem. I actually check those lists. And what happens, well, when I add you to a list, I'm going to see every tweet that you send out.
Right.
And that's the same for everybody else in the list, whether I've got, 14 on the list or 200 on the list. And I'll have those streams set up in my software where I can monitor those discussions and what they're talking about. So if it's a media list, I have a media list for Saskatchewan media only, and that helps me figure out what the hot topics in Saskatchewan are today, and it helps me determine what I'm going to talk about that day.
Can you target tweets to individual lists?
No, you can't target it to a list, but you can target by tagging people in that list, right? So you're going to have some people in that list that are more active than others. And if you have, say you put up a media release on your website about, something your organization wants to share, that's great news, and you want your news people to know about it, then you're going to send out the message, and you're going to tag a couple of those news people, more active news people that could get value from that media release in the tweet. We're still waiting for Twitter, so we can target it to that list. Facebook allows you to make lists and group people as well. It's a little easier. You can target to a list or group on Facebook. You can also target messaging on Google Plus to what they call circles, which really is just a list of people that you've put together.
Yeah, this is...
Sorry, go ahead, Marissa.
Go ahead. I was just going to add to what she said. You read my mind about the lists. One of the things that we've done with our Twitter account is, because it's very big here with us, one issue that's a constant is the issue of emergency preparedness. And we came up with a list of people, organizations, you name it, that we follow that have this ongoing conversation on emergency preparedness, whether it's, from anywhere from the Weather Channel to the state of Texas. We've got that, and it's been a very good and effective way for us to monitor the conversation, but also to get in touch with those groups when we've got, something that we've got coming up and we want them, we want their response about it.
That's really good information, Marissa. I was reading one of the questions that had come in. Jess agrees that lists are fabulous for curating your comments, but Val Renault asks, or says, we've been advised to research hashtags, which I usually do just by searching Twitter for the one I'm considering. I understand there's a more sophisticated way to do this. Do any of you research the hashtags you use before you use them?
Yes. There's no rules surrounding hashtags. Anybody can use a hashtag or create a hashtag on Twitter. So if your hashtag, for instance, I was managing the social media presence for a client of mine, and they're called the Saskatchewan Literacy Network, and they have an annual conference. So we would always put SLN and the year behind it. But they also have put together a event called Literacy Awards of Merit. So we thought, okay, let's use LAM and the year behind it for the hashtag surrounding that event. Great idea. However, the LA Marathon was going on at the exact same time. So that hashtag all of a sudden became irrelevant because it was filled with tweets from participating in the Los Angeles Marathon, which is pretty big. So we had to come up with a new hashtag. So your hashtags can be used by anybody doing anything, so just be aware of that. Monitor that stream, so monitor that hashtag closely. But yeah, do your research and figure out if someone else is using that combination or that phrase before you go ahead and start using it.
Thank you.
We have a lot of scientists who travel domestically and globally for conferences all year round, and I found that it really pays to make to check in with the conference website and see what hashtag they're using. Pretty much all the conferences have one, and then that we start tweeting about our scientists participating, and then I put out individual tweets about their presentations or workshops and things like that. And I found it's been very useful in terms of engaging other people at the conference. I'm not there, but there's people who are there who will say, oh, I heard Dr. So-and-so's talk, wonderful research coming out of Kessler Foundation. So it does pay to make a little bit of an effort to get get the right hashtag.
And keep them short, you guys. You only have 140 characters to work
Right.
with, and that includes any link you're sharing, your comments, your Twitter handle, plus someone else's Twitter handle.
Right, any photo.
Any photo, like anything. So keep it short. I usually try to keep mine between 6 and 8 characters, and that includes the hashtag sign.
Mm-hmm.
Great advice. Camel case. Have any of you heard of camel case? Jess just brought that up in the chat box, and she uses that for accessibility.
I have heard of it. This is Marissa. I've heard of it. I have not had a lot of much exposure to it just yet. We're kind of going back and forth sometimes because we do use the Hootsuite quite a bit as well, but I have not had any experience with it yet.
Definitely. Me neither. I'll look it up after this call. But there were more questions that have come in. One question is, do you encourage or discourage organizations from embedding their Twitter, Facebook posts on their web pages? Does this affect whether or not potential followers might connect with the organization's social media pages?
Yes, do it. Get them on your website. And if you have a conference with a hashtag, get the hashtag stream on your web page. The more points of contact you have, the more active your network is going to be.
Definitely. Marissa, do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, and we're doing a website redesign that's going to encompass that very thing. One thing I've noticed that since we have such active social media channels, our IT department does track web traffic, and they're kind of bemoaning the fact that traffic is declining on our website, which doesn't sound like a good thing, except my feeling is that because our website doesn't give an opportunity for engagement, that people are migrating to our social media channels where they can engage. So I don't think it's a net loss of, so-called traffic.
Right, it's just a transition to, it sounds like.
That's how I see it.
Oh, interesting.
But I think that embedding our Twitter and Facebook posts on our homepage will help tie this together.
That's a great solution.
And here's, we've become a culture that ties a lot of value. We place a lot of value on the click-through, but we don't follow through. So just because someone goes to your website doesn't necessarily mean they're doing what you want them to do. And that could be, to buy something, to download something, to, respond to something. Just because they click through or just because that hit shows up on the website stats doesn't necessarily mean they did anything. So I'd be careful when you're talking about those sorts of numbers because they are very subjective and we often don't know unless you're really good at using Google Analytics or have that IT department to ask that question to, where do they go? So they came to this page. I told them to come to this page on Twitter. How do I follow them through their entire visit on that website?
Interesting. Well, it looks like we have run out of time this afternoon. Thank you all for being here. This has been a great discussion. Short. It felt a lot shorter than I expected it to. So thank you all, and thank you for all your participation as well. We'll be rejoining the conference on Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and we hope everyone can make it. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Well,
thank you for
thank you,
inviting
and
me.
Thank you. Thank you. It was nice talking with everyone.